All right, welcome. I have been working on a tutorial. It is by the Move Multimedia, and it is creating an avatar from your portrait. I've got part of mine finished just simply because I wanted to work ahead to see if we that was if this was something that I thought with the skill level of this particular group, if we would be able to accomplish it, and I definitely think we can. I am going to just real briefly take you through the steps that he does at the beginning of the video, so that and then have him kind of kick in here later. I had this all recorded and Camtasia shut down on me and cut out my recordings. So unfortunately, redoing it at the last minute. I hate that, but here we go. The first step in the process was to create a new document. And we created just a new document, a new print document, basically 8.5 by 11 with CMYK color. And I'm just going to call this Avatar 2. I left the bleed as is CMYK color because we might ultimately want to print it, and then created the new document. Now the next thing that you do is to find a self-portrait or a picture of yourself that you are interested in creating the avatar from. I filed mine out on the desktop so I could have easy access to it. So I went to File and Place, and I went to my desktop, and there is the image that I'm going to oh, I'm sorry, that's just a clipping of that image. I had to go into my photos, I believe. And here's the image, and I placed that. Now, he does not do this in his particular tutorial, but I would recommend you doing this just simply because it makes it a lot easier for you to draw over an image, and that is to put it on its own layer and then to create it as a template layer. So if you don't have your layers panel up, just go under Window and down to Layers, and you'll see in Layers the image is on its own layer. So I am going to click on this drop down menu on the right hand side of the Layers panel, and that's going to give me an option to create a template out of this. Now what's going to happen is it automatically knocks down the color and it locks that image in so I can draw over it without an issue. So there you go. That's the template layer. It's automatically locked, as you can see here, and it's grayed back so that it makes it easier to draw over, which is what I've done here. Now, the second thing that you would do is to create a new layer for your drawing and click OK. And then you can start drawing your image as he's drawn in his. He does use the pen tool, and he's creating primarily basic shapes. So if you look at mine, the first thing that we did was create the outline of my face here. I'm going to get this Layers panel out of here so you can see it. The outline of my face. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to get the pen tool. Well, first I'm going to zoom in here so I can get the outline of my face. Get the pen tool, and I'm going to switch the color around so that I have not a fill color but a stroke color, and I'm going to leave it as white because then I can see where I'm creating my line work. And then you just start clicking and dragging. And remember, with your pen tool, if you click and drop it, that's a corner point. If you click and drag, that's going to give you a curved curved corner. And most of these I'm clicking and dragging because I want a little bit of an organic shape to it, since it is going around my facial outline. And don't worry about the hair, we'll take care of that later on. So we're going to draw this. Clicking and dragging. And you'll see as my pen comes around to the first point that I drew or dropped, you'll see that little round circle that indicates that I'm closing that path. So I'm going to click and close the path. Now I can also, if I find a shape here that I'm not necessarily fond of or feel that it doesn't follow the contours well enough, I can, with the direct selection tool, just click on it. And then see that I would prefer that go in towards my forehead rather than out towards my hair. So I'm going to pick up the pencil tool and I'm just real quickly going to draw to change that path out. You want to make sure that you are repositioning the path, not adding to it. So I have it selected, and let's see if I can do it this way. There, so that's moved the path. It hasn't added an additional path beside it. If you work that way, make sure that that is what happens. All right, so that's the outline of the face. And I see that goes a little bit further out than what I want it to as well. So I'm going to go back in here and again select it with the selection tool. And then we're going to get the pencil tool. And we're going to click and drag to make that a little closer into my face. And again, reposition the path, not create a new one. And you'll see this is the outline of my face there. Then what I'm going to do next with this is bring up my layers panel. And instead of calling that drawing, I'm going to call that face outline. Then I'm going to lock it. And I'm going to add a new layer. And in this layer, it's going to be the lips. So I'm going to say lips. I'm going to zoom in. And you'll see with his, see if I can get back here where his lips were. I'll go this back here a little bit further. All right, so he outlines just half of his lips, and I believe he also outlined just half of his face, although I did draw all the way around it. But notice how he's outlining just half of his lips. And then what he does is he selects that with his selection tool. He smooths out the path a little bit and eliminates some of the anchor points. And then he reflects it and clicks and drags to make that the other half of his lips. And then he selects the entire thing and unites it under the Pathfinder tool. So I'm going to stop there, and you'll see on mine as well that I did that with my lips. So I'm just going to real quickly run through that so you know how to make that happen. I'm going to click here, and remember, you're clicking and dragging. Oh yeah, I don't like those points at all. I'm going to do that over again. You want it about halfway. And these aren't the lips that I'm going to stay with. I'm going to keep with the other ones. I like that shape a little bit better, but I'm just going to show you the process with this. And then he closed out that path, so he has half of his lips drawn. He then went in with his pencil tool and smoothed out. At first he selected it to make sure the entire thing was selected and not just a couple of anchor points. Got the pencil tool, and then he smoothed out some of these areas like that. Looks like the Joker's mouth, right? And this, actually, I don't have too many anchor points with this, so it's not a lot of smoothing, but I'm correcting a few of the shapes anyway. And then he selected it all again, went up under Object and Transform and down to Reflect. And with the reflection tool, we're going to reflect it vertically, and we're going to copy it. So we're going to copy that. Again, we've got that one selected, so we are going to arrow it over to the other side of our mouth. Now with this one, I want to select them both, because you want to make sure that they either meet or overlap to enable you to unite them, which is what we're going to do in a minute. So I am going to bring this over like this so that it overlaps. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Oh, I definitely don't like that shape. But then I'm going to select one side of the mouth, hold down my Shift key and select the other side of the mouth, and then you're going to go up under the Pathfinder panel, which is, bring up the Pathfinder tool or panel, and we're going to unite that under the shape mode. Now you'll see I have a couple of funky little things going on there that I'm not so crazy about, but it's fairly easy to make that smooth out. Oops. We're going to again get the pencil tool. And you'll see how it's adding to that rather than smoothing out that one particular area. So I am going to go back in and select it, get the pencil tool again, and just try to get that funky little shape out. Oh, it didn't work either. Okay, let's have a little dip where my lips are. That's a little bit better. And then let's also do that down at the bottom and smooth that out. Now you can test it to make sure that you've got it united appropriately. If you select the entire thing, and then you should be able to put a color in it, which we can, to allow filling of color later on if we choose to do that. All right, I'm a little concerned that I'm going to run out of time again for Camtasia, so I am going to sign out on this one, and I'll come back in and we'll start drawing the nose with you as well. And I'll be right back.